All right. Well, as you know, generally we like to keep it lighthearted and fun around here at the old Roundtable. But for those of you who have, been watching, and who anybody who was watching the Monday night game last night, you do know there was a serious injury to Damar Hamlin on that hit with that collision with T. Higgins. He went into cardiac arrest on the field, which honestly, it was very jarring for those maybe who didn't see it. Definitely watch at your own peril because it really is kind of a gruesome thing to see and to just see the aftermath of that with everything that happened. But we do want to talk a little bit about that, and also bring up the issue of player safety in the NFL. And again, we know this was a freak accident, and we're very, everybody's praying for Damar Hamlin and his family and all that. But it does bring up a lot of questions, and it does bring up a lot of different things. And so we did want to tackle this. I know we said we usually like to keep it lighthearted around here, but definitely wanted to talk about this today. It's on everybody's heart and mind. And just to give a quick update to my understanding, so if anybody does have any more information, please pass it along. But the last I heard, Damar is down to 50, using 50% oxygen to breathe and everything. They still ask for your continued prayers. The family appreciates the support and all that. So keep that up. But that's at least encouraging news, I think, to go from 100% to 50% on oxygen. But obviously, still a long road ahead of Damar. But Tina, I will start with you. I mean, when something like this happens, there's two sides to all these coins. What was just your impression in general? I don't know if you watched it live or saw the replay, but what was your general impression of everything that happened there?
I saw the replay. I honestly wasn't
Okay.
watching the game, but
Okay.
it's it's disturbing. I mean, you can literally just see him just jump right into cardiac arrest. And I like you said, I mean, it was a freak accident. This isn't something that like the NFL can test for, determine, or see if something's going on. I mean, these are guys that are at the top athletic ability and they're keeping themselves in prime condition. So that's probably why he's recovering so fast. But it's just another example in the NFL in this season of player safety being an issue. And so I kind of said it earlier when the ladies and us were talking. I was like, this one's a little bit of a freak, but the situation with Tua, that's the one that I'm having the harder time with because that one was preventable. That one, there's supposed to be protocols in place. And it happened again. What is his second or third time he's gotten a concussion? I can't remember.
That would be the actual third time he's in protocol. Yes, third
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And
In
people
one
are
season.
like, yeah, one season. And people are like, well, he could have said something. It's like he's a rookie quarterback who's trying to make a name for himself on the team. If you're not telling him no, he's going out there. It's just there's bigger adults in that situation. So those are kind of my thoughts. I've seen my team just get decimated with injury after injury after injury after injury. And
Right.
it's
Sure.
not just my team. There's other teams that this year, like, I don't know what happened with conditioning. Like, people are just having season ending injuries left and right. So I don't know what the
No,
answer
no,
is.
and
So
that's a great question, and that's what I'm going to pose to Delilah because Delilah, as you know, they shortened the preseason by a week to add an extra game during the season. So I would ask you, do you think that's had an effect on the rash of injuries that we've had this year? And also, of course, any other commentary you'd like to give on Damar Hamlin or Tua as well?
Yeah. Well, first with Damar, so there's no precedent for going to cardiac arrest, obviously in the field. However, well, that's not correct because Kate and Nick were talking about like I wasn't born yet, but apparently, during a Bears and Lions game, a player did die, on the field after getting hit. And so saying there's no precedent, that's actually untrue because something similar, even though not the exact heart issue, right? Because it was a different heart injury, but still. I think the problem is, which I don't know if people, so there is a call, by the way, and I don't know if there are a lot of people, medical scientists, and experts who are saying that the NFL shouldn't exist as it is, right? Because they're saying that obviously you can't 100% protect players. You can't. It's impossible, right? Because it's a contact sport. So there is a call, and I just want to throw it out that there are a lot of people who support the tackle football not existing. So just you could do the studies, you can look at the research, the CTE, that stuff is real. Look what's happening to Tua, like we're saying. This kid is 24 years old. His mom is in the stands and watching what she probably thinks she's watching her son die in front of her. And I think that, and I think we have to remember that players are people. And this isn't the good old days of football anymore. Like, I think we need to get out of that mentality too. It's not everyone. I actually see more the opposite. I actually do see more fans care about player safety, which is why you hear people saying, hey, what are you doing with these players? They're holding teams in the NFL more accountable than they did in the past. Like that mentality is out the window because we've seen men who have said, sadly, are legends. We've seen them die in poverty due to medical problems, right? We sadly have seen legends that played football in the 60s, 70s, and 80s end up in medical bankruptcy because they can't take care of themselves post-football. And then if you're not an elite NFL player and you're still hurt, you don't have the same care, right? The same access to wealth and the same, you know what I mean? You just don't have the same access to personnel. And so I do think that needs to be handled a lot better. Like, I do believe that it should be more equitable, and that regardless of what your status is, these kids are because they come in as kids, they're putting their bodies on the line every day for a sport that they love. They love the sport. We know that. Like, I know that if you spoke to Damar and think hopefully he recuperates 100%, I know he'll tell you he'll go back out there again. You know what I mean? Like, with Tua, I agree. I think the fact that he's had 3 concussions in the span of a few months is actually pretty alarming. The NFL Players Association insists that the day of, he didn't show, quote unquote, according to them, right, any signs of a concussion symptoms until the next day. Now, I don't know because I'm not a doctor. I'm not sure how concussion symptoms show up, but they insist that on the field at that time that he wasn't showing signs of a concussion, and it wasn't until the following day. Yeah, I think that's why we do have more fan support for player health. I agree. I think the Tua thing is really scary, and honestly, it's a little nerve-wracking. I hope he doesn't play, and I know that sucks because to Miami fans, they're like, okay, well, what do we do? But what's more important? What's more important, winning the game or allowing your quarterback the season to heal so he could possibly, maybe, come back next season and hopefully, pray to God that 10 years down the line, we're not hearing about this, Tua becoming a product of CTE, because we've heard multiple things of what's happened, right? We know that sadly players have committed suicide. The statistics are there, okay, or have committed acts of violence against others because their brain has suffered so many injuries that their brain no longer functions the way a normal brain should. And I don't know, but yeah, I think that we need to ask ourselves as fans who love the sport, what is more important to you? Do you know that those people, that they're humans? They're human beings. And I think that's what we need to remember, is that they are human beings. They might be these massive guys, right, that go out there and have this amazing athleticism and perform these feats of strength. But at the end of the day, these are human beings. And I think that we really need to rethink who we are as fans and how we want to see this game progress, because I don't want the NFL to end. But I do feel that there's things that we can do that are better for player safety, right? I think that there are better protocols that could be put in place. I think that there's a lot of things that can be done to make this a lot safer, but also think about about the players' overall health in general. And I don't think it has to do with preseason. I think it does have to do more with conditioning. Like, I don't know what they're doing in practice anymore. I don't know if they're spending the time that they need to in the in training camp, right? We see these guys skip training camps all the time. Should they be? You know what I mean? Should we be allowing the skipping of training camps? Should you not be part of of that strength and conditioning team, or set the tone for
Yeah,
that. So,
100%.
I feel like that's huge to me, is the strength and conditioning part. But also, yeah, let's I feel like there has to be a better way in 2023, with the improvement of medical science and technology. I feel that there's a better way in which we could protect players. Sorry, I think I went on a rant.
No,
Apologies.
no, no, that's
Anthony?
okay. I mean, again, it's yeah, no, it's a hot
Took your
button
turn.
issue, like because I know no, because I know everybody has opinions on this, and that's the whole thing. It's like, see, we got a Jim Melvin here. A number of NFL players have died because of their time in the NFL, but it's typically years and sometimes decades down the road. This was the rarest case where it almost happened right before our eyes. The NFL has been skirting a fine line for a long, long time. Okay, that's definitely one opinion. Jim, we do appreciate you chiming in. But Handy, I'll ask you. I mean, you've been watching football a long time, my friend. Um, what can the NFL do? Again, this was a freak accident, but obviously with the Tua thing, that brings up the larger issue. What can the NFL do in all honesty, because again, you have so many
Yeah.
things at play here, right? With the players' union and contracts and this and that, and money becomes involved, and people start, how that can be. But what can the NFL do to help prevent things like Tua from happening? Because again, as you said, 3 concussions within a few months. That poor guy. I mean, he could already be messed up for the rest of his life and not even know it. What,
Yeah.
what do you got to say,
And
Anthony?
and Ben touched on something that I was going to talk about. I mean, Junior Seau committed
Mhm.
suicide, and he had even with all that was going on, he had the presence of mind to shoot himself in the chest so that they could examine his brain. But this thing with the CTE has been going on for a long time, and I mean, when I was playing football back in the 70s and the 80s, it was just something you got your bell rung. So as far as I know,
Mhm.
I might have had a concussion or two playing football, but that was just something, you boom, and then your head rung for a little bit and you were a little dizzy and you went out for a couple plays, you went back in and you knocked pads some more. But now, knowing what we know and knowing the long-term damage that could cause, the long-term effects, listen, you ask me what the NFL can do, they can do a hell of a lot more than what they're doing. Every single one of those franchises owner is a billionaire. Period. Period. Every single one of their bosses is a billionaire. They could do a hell of a lot more than they're doing. The CTE issue, ever since it started coming up, and it started coming up, and it started coming up, and it started coming up. I mean, I remember seeing Antonio Brown laid out on the field. Okay, and now look what's going on with him. Richard Sherman has had some problems. I mean, and Richard Sherman is not an unintelligent guy. Richard Sherman has had some Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde moments as of late in the last 4 or 5 years. You get Tua. I'm just gonna say it. I hated watching him play at Alabama, but I hated watching him play because he was so damn good and he was always beating my team. But I say this now not because he played for Bama, but for his own health and safety. If the Dolphins give a damn about Tua Tagovailoa, they will tell him, "Look, we're gonna sit you down. Your contract's already covered." You understand what I'm saying? Now the freak things you can't the Joe Theismann type injuries and the busted ACLs. There's nothing that they can really do to prevent that, short of making it flag ball. And
Right.
I've seen dudes tear Achilles and ACLs playing flag football. But as far as the CTE and things like
Right.
that, if a dude gets his bell rung, he does not play. Period. He don't go back in next week. He don't go in the week after. He's sitting out for at least a 2 to 3 week minimum
Right.
because they're gonna make that money anyway. Why? They're talking. Oh well, we lose money. All 32 teams split the television revenue. Do they not?
Yeah. I think
Don't
so.
they get a don't they get a portion of
Yeah.
the ad? Doesn't
They
the
do.
portion of the ad revenue come to the
Mm-hmm.
NFL and all that stuff? I mean,
Yeah,
Roger.
the teams do get some part of that. Yes,
Right,
correct.
right. And Roger Goodell gets like a 7-figure salary a year, right?
Mhm.
To do a whole lot of nothing, but get booted the draft every year, and maybe occasionally go, well, you can't play for 3 games if somebody act up, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
if they can afford all of that money, why can't they afford to take care of the people that have? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because without these players, these guys would not be billionaires.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? I think And honestly, I don't know how true this whole thing was. The story about the NFL saying, because there's all different stories going around, the NFL saying, well, you got him off the field. You guys are going back out on the field in 5 minutes. I don't know the truth to that. But if that is true, the NFL can kiss all of my behind because I'm already tired. I'm already tired. I've been griping and complaining
Yeah.
about these horrible games all season. Y'all kiss all of my behind because it's been obvious for years. It doesn't. They do a lot of lip service about how much they care about the players, but do they really? They do enough. They do enough to get the people to come in, like they did the thing with Sean Taylor with Sean Taylor at
Right.
Commanders Park and things like that. You understand what I'm saying? And that was a guy that was loved by all the fans. They keep trotting his name out every time something happened, and Dan Snyder get in trouble, caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Oh, we paid it to 21 on the field. They don't. They don't. They've shown that they don't care. Now I can't speak for all the franchises, but overall as a league, I'm sorry. I've you understand what I'm saying? I mean,
No, no, I'm
we
with you,
got
man.
we got a a young man who's a host on several of our shows had 5 concussions in high school. You understand what I'm saying? It's a violent sport. So if he had gone on to play college and maybe gone on to play pro, Lord only knows what had happened to him. And I'm sorry. I don't mean
No,
to be
don't
that.
apologize.
I don't mean to be that
You
guy,
played the
and
game.
I don't mean to be the non Uncle Shay Shay version of Uncle Shay Shay today. But the NFL is just not doing right by these players when it comes to things like that. And then hearing that story, I try to keep it real then because I wasn't there. I don't know if it happened or not. But if it turned out to be true, NFL
Yeah.
is
Well, that was the thing watching it because, like I said, obviously I didn't know what happened right away either. I was not watching the game at the time, and I heard our group chat all of a sudden started
Yeah.
lighting up with the
Yeah.
comments. So I turned on the game then to see what was happening. And they, again, like I
Same
said,
here.
Anthony, we don't know if it's 100% true, but it did say that at some point they started warming up again after they took him off the field. They told the players to warm up that they're going to give them 5 minutes to get together, and they were thinking about starting the game again. And then that's when the coaches, Zach Taylor, and
Went across the field. Yep.
yeah, they what it,
Hmm.
I always forget the coach from Buffalo's name, Mick. What's his name? Oh, somebody help me out. But anyways, the coaches got together, then they started talking, and it
Right.
seemed like it was after that conversation that the teams went to the locker rooms, and that's when they, and then they started calling, or the NFL called, New York called, whatever it was, and they started having the conversations because they kept showing like, then they showed the meeting of the referees with the coaches in the hallway, and then they showed
Yeah.
like the people on the phone with whatever. So at some point, obviously the NFL was involved the whole way with this. So again,
right.
we don't know if that's true or not, but I just think it really does make you wonder though, because again, especially with the Tua thing, and my opinion on this is simply this: you saw Sean McDermott. Thank you very much, Ben. I knew it was mixed something, so I do appreciate that. Thank you very much, Ben. But the second hit on Tua, like the second when he came back after that first concussion, when you saw him get up and hit, he wobbled. It
He
was almost
did.
like he
Hmm.
would have fallen down if
That
they
was
would not
scary
have been there
too.
to catch his. Yeah, no, it truly was, and I'm like, why is this guy in the game?
Yeah.
Literally the week before he leaves the game, he's back the next week and gets hit
Yeah.
again,
We thought he was
and you're
paralyzed.
like,
Remember,
why?
for like a
No,
split
yeah,
second, we're like,
yeah,
this
split
man
second, right?
is paralyzed.
And you can blame the NFL, but I got to blame the Dolphins on that one. I'm just saying, like that's his
Yeah.
team, that's his
100%.
coach, that's his, you're like, man, did you not see the way that poor kid took that? And
Yeah.
again, here's the thing: as we all know, the Dolphins have to win this week to keep their playoff chances alive. They're eight
Yep.
and eight. They've lost so many games now that they're 8-8 and on their way out if they can't win. And it's like, well, does that still justify Tua playing just because
No,
you're
not in
playing
my
for a
opinion.
playoff spot?
Hell
Well, no,
no.
not in my book.
No.
Right,
No,
not in my
no,
book
no.
either. 100% right, exactly, 100%. And it's like, but would I be surprised if Tua plays on Sunday? Absolutely
Nope.
not. And that,
No.
to me, that's the shame of it all. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing that bothers me more than anything
That comes
is
from
that in that situation,
the
well,
fan
I'm saying, but
base.
I mean, no, but I mean,
Yeah.
You have to
but I'm
speak
just saying,
up.
right? Regardless of who it comes from, yeah, it's like this is the one thing to remember. And the guy who said it best, I was watching, kept on Sports Center after the game was suspended because they had Scott Van Pelt and
Hmm.
Ryan Clark on there, and this is about human beings. These are people. Okay?
Exactly.
Above all else,
Yes.
forget about football, forget about
Yes.
fantasy football, forget about your betting lines, forget
Yes.
about all that crap.
Thank you.
These are human beings.
Exactly.
Okay? I don't give a shit if you lost your fantasy football league yesterday
Right.
because Buffalo and Cincinnati didn't play. I don't really care. What I care about is that poor kid lying in the hospital at
Yes.
24 years old. Who, we don't know what's going to happen to him.
Tell it.
We don't know how long. This guy's a brother. I mean, this guy's a brother. He had a sibling there. This
Yes.
guy's a son. This guy,
Yeah.
this guy has a family, and you're worrying about an effing football game. Like
Exactly.
Anthony said, kiss my entire Mexican,
Yes.
Puerto Rican, Italian behind, because that is what I'm saying to you. All right?
Yes.
And and I'm not a small
Exactly.
man, so I will make sure I don't shower for 5 days, and then you can kiss my behind
Oh
and
my
take that,
gosh.
because that's what I have to say
Yes.
about that.
I agree.
And I'm done. If anybody has
agree.
anything else, feel free, because I'm
Yes.
finished. I'm done. I am
Woo!
done. That is
There's
it.
that smoke. There's that smoke.
I got two things to say. One, Nick,
There you
you
go.
see what is on my shirt where it says "Stay salty"? Go for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, no,
Exactly.
I'm just.
I agree 100%.
I'm sorry. I had to
Secondly-
do it. I had to do it.
Yeah.
I had to do it.
Yeah.
I just
And
could
to
not
go
stay
along
quiet
with
about
what-
that particular. Yeah.
Nick,
Yeah,
I love you.
And to go along with what Andrew Handy was saying, is that one, if you're not going to give the medical personnel there
Mhm.
the deciding factor on whether or not that person had a concussion on the field,
That part.
and they have the make or break opinion, fine. NFL, boom, across the line. You get knocked, your head hits anywhere, you're off the field. These guys are too big, too fast. The game is different. It's not the same game they were playing back in the 50s and the 60s. And it took the NFL 20 years to come up with a better helmet.
Exactly.
So that they wouldn't be getting these CTEs. And
Mhm.
I actually had a friend when I was working at the law firm, her daughter was working at the place where they were getting all these ex-NFL players CTE and checking their brains and everything.
Yeah.
Junior Seau, they said, when he was in his late 20s, his brain scan came back as a 90-year-old man with Alzheimer's.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how bad this shit is. Excuse me, probably shouldn't swear. So I'm 100% agreeing with you on this. The Tua thing pisses me off more than anything. Because like I said, there were bigger adults in that situation than Tua. And they should have been adults. And they should be protecting these guys.
I agree.
Because if you're not protecting these guys, owners, you're losing money. Because they're going to have a career-ending knee injury if they're a running back. They're going to have their bell rang so bad they're not going to be able to be a wide receiver anymore. There's all this shit going on. So if you talk about how these guys are the base and everything, you got to be able to tell your fans, I'm sorry, this is about being human. This is about protecting.
Exactly.
Honestly, you want to use their terms? This is about protecting my investment in that man. If that's the way you're going to talk about it that way. I don't care. But do the right thing and not just throw somebody back out because you'll make more money if you go to the playoffs.
Right. I agree.
And I've also heard something. I'll have to find the video that was on TikTok.
Okay.
And I don't think this is across the board. I'm also wondering if some of these players are slightly throwing their concussion tests because they have to do a concussion test. They have to take a test in the beginning. And then if they have a concussion, they have to take the exact same test again. If they do better than they did on their original one, they're seen as not having a concussion.
Ah, interesting. Okay. See,
so
that's
there are some guys out there will do this
Yeah.
because they know they're going to get their bell rung. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And they don't want to come to the game.
Right.
That's why
And
I'm
that-
saying you
and-
hit your head, you're out.
Yeah.
Done. No.
Yeah.
So
See, and that's the thing, though. What Tina said there, like, that's the sad fact. And you could say that these are grown men. A lot of people don't really realize these are kids out of college. A lot of them. They're 22, 23, 24. Like, I'm sorry. I know what my dumbass was like at 23 and 24, and I wouldn't have made a sane decision on my health if I was thought it was making me millions of dollars. I'd be like, I'm in there, coach. Let's go. Yeah.
Put me back
And it's
in,
like
coach.
somebody.
Let's win one for
Tina
the
said it
Gipper.
perfectly.
They don't know.
Right. There are bigger adults in that room. There are management people, coaches. You guys are responsible for these young men and their health and safety. I don't care if they are professionals. You are responsible for them as their coach and as their manager and all that stuff. Sit the kid down. Think about him for a minute instead of the dollar signs or whatever else you got going on in your head about playoffs or all this stuff and your job.
Or
You might
getting
get
booed
fired
by
because
the
your team has a losing
fans.
record.
Yeah,
Getting booed by
think
people,
they
right?
should. I think Miami fans too, not just Miami, but I also feel like we have to recognize that we're culpable, right? And I think that we need to again throw away, like you said. I think that the majority of us need to stop going, oh, my fantasy team. You know, that's why the players always come out every season. They're like, I don't care about your fantasy team, right? And then fans get mad. They're like, they don't care about you. They're doing their job. Their job is they're a football player. They don't care about your stat lines or your whatever. Like, they're not focusing on that. And so I think as fans, I think that we need to do better. Like, I am very happy the way the Cincinnati fans reacted. That's how we should react. Yes, cancel the game. No one booed. No one was upset. We should follow their example of how you treat these kinds of situations. Miami fans, y'all need to just rise up. I get it. I'm sorry because you guys were on a good run. But what's more important for you? The long-term health of your quarterback who you're supporting and saying this is your franchise QB, or sorry, making these playoffs. Like, honestly, what is more important to you?
Fans really tripping like that about
like,
who we're playing?
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hit or miss. I'm not seeing, you know what I'm saying? I'm not seeing a lot of people actually pushing for him not to play, and I feel that they need to, because we just saw someone go into cardiac arrest. Your brain and your heart, I don't think people understand, are the two most important organs in your body.
Yeah, I suppose they are, right? Exactly.
So I don't think, like, you know how this man, we just saw a young man go into cardiac arrest. What do you think happens when someone has a severe blow to the head? They can end up paralyzed. It could stop your speech function. It could set off, different types of that's not how you get Parkinson's disease, but it does exacerbate the issue. We saw what happened with Muhammad Ali in his later years, right? So again, it does create a lot of long-term awful things for you. So you really need to start thinking about that. I think fans, we have to do better because we are the money makers, right? We're the ones watching TV. We're the one buying the merchandise. We're the one buying the tickets. And so we do have more power than we think. And I think we really need to push that and go, hey, you know what's more important? My team, the human being, like all four of them is saying, that's out on that field. They're more important. Their safety is more important. Their health is more important than that game that day. And so kudos to Cincinnati fans. Seriously, they showed a lot of that 100%. Was awesome. That they did great.
They even showed outside the stadium. They had Buffalo fans and Cincinnati fans together praying outside the stadium after they all left.
Yeah.
Like, these people were totally in sync with each other, which was really, like I said, great to see. And it's just so.
More of that.
But I did want to take a moment because, like I said, for those of you who may not understand exactly what happened with Damar Hamlin, we do have a quick video that I'd like to show you from a sports medicine doctor who kind of explains this particular freak thing that happened. So, Delilah, if you could cue that up, I'd like you guys to watch this video real quick.
What we just witnessed tonight is one of the most rare things we can see in sports medicine, as Damar Hamlin went down with what appeared to be cardiac arrest after taking this hit on the field. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Suter, and on this channel, I try to teach you about the sports medicine world and give you some insight into what we see on the field. What we saw happen tonight is not related to any sort of vaccines. This is almost certainly something called commotio cordis, an extremely rare condition that's one of those things that we typically only think we're going to read about in textbooks. Essentially, what can happen is if you have a blunt trauma to the chest that occurs at exactly the right time in the cardiac electrical cycle, your heart can be sent into cardiac arrest. As Hamlin comes in here, we can see this square hit to the front of his chest. We see him get back up momentarily before ultimately collapsing back down to the ground and requiring CPR on the field. This is a tracing of our heart's electrical activity. Basically, this is one cycle of the heart squeezing. It starts off with this P wave, which is the electrical activity of the atrium at the top of the heart squeezing, then the QRS complex, which is going to be the ventricles acting. But then the last phase is this T wave, where the ventricle basically depolarizes and kind of resets to get ready for the next cycle. For commotio cordis to happen, you have to suffer this blunt trauma to the chest at exactly the right moment, specifically on this upstroke of the T wave, in order for the heart to then be sent into this arrhythmia and subsequent cardiac arrest. This is one of those things that not only do you have to have a high enough force, but it has to happen within milliseconds of a time window, because if that impact comes at any other time in this electrical cycle, you're fine. You don't go into this. But when it happens at just this right time during this upstroke of the T wave, and if it's high enough, then you can have this thing called commotio cordis. We typically think of it happening in baseball players whenever they get hit in the middle of the chest with a hard thrown ball. But unfortunately, that looks like what is most likely to have happened here with Hamlin. Treatment like this is obviously CPR and defibrillation as quickly as possible, because this can absolutely be a life-threatening thing. Again, this is not something that people should go speculate about vaccines or anything like that causing this cardiac arrest. There was a clear contact, a clear trauma, and I think a clear reason why, unfortunately, this happened for Hamlin. My thoughts and prayers go out to the player, go out to his family, everybody else there on the field, the medical staff taking care of him. This is an extremely, extremely serious thing. One of those conditions that, like I said, you hope, you pray you never actually see as a medical provider. But hopefully this was educational. Let me know, as always, any questions or comments down below. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad that he was able to break that down and kind of explain exactly. Again, it was a freak accident. It's a very unfortunate thing to have had happen. But yeah, I just, like I said, again, I can't do anything, but my heart goes out to the family. Our prayers go out to the family. And again, an encouraging word, hopefully, that he's on 50% oxygen now instead of 100%. And again, being a 24-year-old man who's in pretty good shape, hopefully he can recover. And it's not even about football. I just hope he can recover as a human, physically, walk, and not have any lingering injuries from this, be able to get up and go do things. I mean, he's still a young man, 24, still got, potentially his whole life ahead of him. So, yeah, you hope he can recover quickly. Go ahead, Anthony.
If he never plays another down of football again, he has already done more than most of the rest of us that had any type of sports aspirations ever had. He was a professional football player for an NFL franchise. And he came up as a sixth round. I think it was a sixth rounder.
Something like that.
I think it was a sixth rounder.
Somewhere in there, yes. Somewhere in there, yes.
And then he made his way off the bench onto the field as a starter.
Yeah.
So I mean,
University of Pittsburgh kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that might be a little disappointing, but I don't know. Life just sounds a lot sweeter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I do wish, we all do wish him well, and hope that he has a very speedy recovery.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Well, listen, I want to thank everyone for that. I mean, I know everybody's passionate about this. I appreciate everyone's opinion for sure. But we're going to take
we can talk all night about this.
No, I know. And believe me
about this, but we go.
But you're right. We got to move on.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. If you liked that clip, be sure to check out the other great content from the Let's Talk Football community. And as always, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when more great content like this becomes available.